My wife thinks her cheating on me doesn't matter since it occurred before our marriage. The timeline matters in this situation. We have been married for 3 years. We were a couple for 2 years before that. We've been together for around 5 years. 2 weekends ago, her sister got married, and my wife was part of the wedding party. She spent the 2 weeks before the wedding helping her sister get everything ready. It was nothing out of the ordinary. I was kept in the loop, so I knew this was coming. She took Wednesday and Friday off work to help her and ended up staying for 3 days. I know her sister well, but I hardly know the guy who is now my brother-in-law. I've only met him a few times, but he seems nice. I arrived Saturday morning a few hours before the ceremony, hoping to catch a few minutes with her. I didn't want to intrude on her busy day, but I hadn't seen her since Tuesday. She spots me outside her parents' house and sends her brother to let me know she'll come out to the car. I found it strange, but I shrugged it off. She comes out and sits next to me, giving me a kiss. But instead of being happy to see me, she says we need to talk. She mentioned that she didn't want it to spoil her sister's day. She tells me that at the reception, if I still want to go, I might hear some things about the best man in her. She didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I just sat there, stunned. She mentioned that about 4 years ago, she had a fling with him. She said it didn't mean anything, but she knew I could be a bit jealous. She wanted to tell me ahead of time so I wouldn't be caught off guard if I heard something later. I just sat there, surprised. This wasn't how I expected my morning to unfold. I told her I appreciated her sharing and that it really wasn't a big deal anymore. She went back inside, and I went to eat lunch before deciding to meet her at the church. While I was eating and scrolling through my phone, it hit me. She mentioned having a fling with him 4 years ago, and we've been together for 5. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she just got the time wrong. But as I reflected on our 1.5 years together, I recalled a phase where her behavior was off. She wasn't around as much and went on 2 weekend camping trips with coworkers. I'm feeling a bit anxious about this, but I know I have a long day ahead. I attended the wedding and sat there observing everything. After the wedding, there's a line where you walk by to congratulate the bride and groom, and the wedding party stands in line too. My wife is with a guy I don't know. The best man was there, so I just kept going and acted like it was no big deal. Arrived at the reception, and it took a long time for them to show up because of the photos. She arrives and takes a seat next to me. I chose to stay quiet because I didn't want to take away from the day. Instead of dropping it, she tells me that each of the groomsmen and bridesmaids will dance, and she plans to dance with him. I asked why she wasn't his partner for the party, and she explained that the maid of honor and her partner were actually married and wanted to dance together. I'm feeling pretty annoyed, but I do my best to hide it. I'm glad I chose not to drink. I know I get angry when I do, so I avoid it altogether. She chats with those nearby, and when the dance starts, he approaches and offers his arm. She stands up. I make an effort to avoid watching it. She returns with him, and they are laughing together. She thinks it's a good idea to introduce us. Even though I wanted to tell him to leave me alone, I ended up greeting him in a polite way. He still sat and talked with her for a few minutes. The more they sat and talked about old times and places, the madder I became. I got up and went to the bathroom. When I came back, he was gone. She told me she thought I was rude, which was not what I wanted to hear at that moment. I told her this wasn't the right time or place for that conversation, but we would discuss it later. She sat there and said she was going to change clothes. When she got back, she would tell her sister we were leaving because I had ruined her day, but she didn't want me to ruin her sister's day too. I told her I could stay out of her way and not cause any trouble for her or her sister for the rest of the day. I just wanted to avoid any drama, so I thought it was best to stay put. She changed her clothes and returned, clearly upset. I haven't said anything to her. I even shook the other guy's hand. It seems I appeared miserable, and that's what she used to judge the situation. She was set on leaving, so I told her that if she really wanted to go, we could. But if she preferred to stay, I was fine with that too. Since I drove myself, I could leave and let her stay if that's what she wanted. Initially, she suggested we stay. But then she told me that if I couldn't improve my behavior, I should go. I asked how I was acting, and she said it was clear I was trying to be like a silverback gorilla ready to fight. I was torn between laughing and feeling insulted. I returned and took a seat while she chatted with the other guests. I chatted with her brother for a bit, but then I found myself back at our table talking to her grandma. I left at the same time, and I got home just before she did. I was in the living room waiting for her when she walked in and got straight to the point. I asked her to tell me the story about that other guy again, and she repeated it exactly as she did before. After watching her for a while, I asked, "Are you sure about the time frame?" She replied that she was. I reminded her that we had been together for 5 years, so this fling happened more than a year into our relationship. What happened next is hard to explain. Rather than getting flustered or denying it, she just said, "I know." So I asked her to explain. She said they worked together, that it was just physical, and she felt we weren't in a good place then. She claimed she never had feelings for him and never intended to leave me. She was just enjoying herself for a few weekends. She mentioned that it might have been a mistake to tell me at this moment, but she wanted to make sure I wasn't caught off guard. I didn't react the way she expected me to, I suppose. We had a big argument, and it ended when she said I was acting like a child about everything. We were married, and this happened long before that. Our life together now is separate from him and that time. There are 2 points to consider. I strongly believe this doesn't affect us at all. She cheated on me and doesn't even have the decency to feel guilty regarding it. I dislike being called childish when I get upset about something. It really frustrates me because that's her way of trying to act better than me. I said I needed time to think, and she replied that there was nothing to think about. We cared for each other, and that remained the same. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm still struggling with it. She has been reaching out to me for the past few days, but I have to admit that I don't see her the same way I used to. Part of me thinks this is dumb. A few years back, we got married, and everything has been smooth since then. Part of me is hurting because I just found out she cheated on me. It really stings, and instead of trying to understand my feelings, she's trying to make me feel guilty for even thinking about it. I'm unsure about my next steps. I apologize for the length. I should have trimmed some of the wedding details, but it all just came out at once. Update 1. I'm 25, married to my wife, who is 23. At my sister's wedding, she told me she slept with the best man. First, I want to clarify something from my first post that I didn't explain very well. It doesn't really matter, but it bothers me that I made this part unclear. The maid of honor, who is not my wife, was married to the groomsman that my wife walked down the aisle with. Some people thought my wife was trying to set up the dance, but I know for sure that this part was real. She did try to offer them a dance or other ways to influence them, but I wanted to clarify that part a bit. I'm here because I've received over 40 requests for an update since last week. I appreciate your concern, but I don't have a bold story to share about standing up and kicking her to the curb. That's just not how it went down. Honestly, I'm stuck in a tough spot. Things have changed, but they only complicate my decision-making. Last week, I felt mostly angry, but as the weekend went on, I ended up feeling mostly sad. I wish I could just hate her and realize I'm being taken advantage of, but it's tough because I still love her, and it's tearing me apart. This is what has happened that matters. She finally understood that I wasn't going to move past this easily. This made her realize that I might want to leave the marriage. This led to a near nervous breakdown. Somebody, a lot. From the first post, she mentioned trying to manipulate me, and I really took those words seriously when I thought she was just putting on a show. It quickly became clear to me that she was being genuine. She was experiencing a real panic attack. This resulted in a trip to the emergency room. She went for a visit, which resulted in an overnight stay at the hospital. Now, she has new medications and a follow-up appointment with her doctor scheduled for later next week. This involved her family, which led to lengthy discussions all around. When we got home with her family, I asked what she wanted to do since there were a lot of people around. She said she wanted to spend some time with her mom. I was okay with that since I didn't want to spend the whole day with her dad or sister. I told her I was going to wrap up some work and would be home later. 2 hours after I arrive, I receive a text from her asking me to come home. She says she really needs to talk. I wrap up my tasks and go home. Her dad greets me on my front porch and asks if we can talk for a minute. My anger was already rising, but I was prepared to confront her if she had thrown a bunch of lies at me with her dad. It's not like we're close or anything, but I've never had a bad experience with him. I didn't want to be the one who hurt his feelings. We were sitting in our deck chairs when he hit me hard with his opening line. I thought I would hear something different from what he said. He mentioned that she explained what happened and that he wanted to say sorry to me. He felt he had failed as a parent and believed her mindset was shaped by her mother. While he cared for both of them, he thought they were mistaken. He had told his wife years ago that teaching the girls that anything before marriage doesn't matter was a terrible idea and value system to instill in them. He mentioned that he wasn't defending his daughter's actions, but wanted me to know that her words and behavior stemmed from her belief that marriage was a completely different experience. He felt that her parents had idealized marriage so much that she couldn't grasp the reality of it. He was really putting his wife in a tough spot, but honestly, I didn't see this coming at all. We shook hands, and he told me that whatever I chose, he still thought highly of me. That honestly made me feel good in that moment. I went inside and saw my wife curled up on her mom's lap. It was clear she had been crying the whole time I was away. My mom gets up, hugs me, and says she's sorry. She tells me she loves me and is hoping we can fix this. My wife is lying on the couch right now. She sits there, tears in her eyes, after her mom and dad leave. All right, I'm about to upset some people by saying that I couldn't handle it. I approached her, and we embraced for a long time as she repeatedly expressed her apologies. I realize it wasn't the strongest choice, but I want to explain that right before this happened, I truly loved her and would have done anything to keep her from suffering. No matter what she did, I still didn't want to see her that way. It's possible she was acting really well, but I don't actually believe that. At that moment, she looked truly shattered. Once she settled down, I asked her what she wanted to discuss when I got home. She said she wanted to clear the air so I wouldn't feel deceived or controlled. She wanted me to ask her questions, and I wish I had made a list, but I thought of a few on the spot. She was very straightforward with me, and some of the questions I asked probably weren't the best idea. Now, the mental image is stuck in my head, but honestly, it was there before. I just have confirmation now. I started by asking for dates, or at least some rough estimates. I kept my worries about the engagement to myself because I didn't want her to alter her account, and she recalled precisely when everything happened. Luckily, this occurred earlier in our relationship than she initially mentioned, so we weren't engaged at the time. It was such a relief. I felt sick just thinking about it after someone mentioned it in my last post. I asked how many times. She really went too far with this. Instead of just telling me how many different dates, she decided to share how many times there was penetration. She didn't mean to be unkind. She genuinely believed that was what I wanted to know. This part of the conversation didn't help me at all and nearly broke me down. It wasn't very frequent, and there were really only 3 specific days when it occurred, but it did happen multiple times on those days. Next, it was time for the difficult part. What made her do that? I'm not the toughest guy out there, and I hate to say it, but I couldn't hold back tears while trying to share this. I wondered why I wasn't good enough. Why that guy? Why didn't she just walk away? It was her turn to support me because everything was overwhelming at that moment. She told me, and I had to watch them laugh together. Now she's sharing how many times they were together and where it happened. She was talking the whole time, but I still have no clue what she said. I was really upset, and honestly, nothing she said would have changed anything. After I calmed down, I told her that the betrayal was terrible, but her reaction when I discovered it was just as bad, if not worse. She acknowledged my point and apologized for calling me immature. She claimed that she truly thought it wouldn't be important to me anymore since we were married. Hearing her say that made me really angry again. I began to mention my thoughts, but she interrupted. She said that after discussing it with her parents, she realizes that what she did was wrong and that cheating is cheating. However, she believes that the happiness we've shared since getting married should mean something. I responded that it seemed to me that happiness was based on a falsehood. This caused her to break down again, nearly leading to another trip to the ER. However, with Ativan and some breathing into a paper sack, we managed to calm her down. I let her sleep the rest of the night. We were both emotionally drained, but by Sunday, we were talking again. At this point, I wasn't feeling as understanding as I was when we returned from the ER. I told her that introducing him to me was a bad move. Watching her dance with him was even worse, and the fact that she only mentioned it because she was about to be found out was just the worst. I asked her why she thought I would find out and how many others at the wedding knew besides me. Clearly, the guy was aware, and his best friend also knew. By the way, that guy is now my brother-in-law. This eventually led to her sister finding out, and she was worried that her sister would be the one to tell me. I asked her how often she sees this guy, and she said the wedding is the first time in 3 years. When I lost my temper and asked her if she had been with him before the wedding, she got upset, acting like she wouldn't cheat because she was married. I couldn't handle it and had to step away for a bit because it felt like she was in a different reality, one that didn't align with mine. I managed to calm down and come home to handle things more calmly. She asked me what she could do to help me get through this. It might not seem like much, but it was the first time she genuinely offered to help, so it felt like a nice gesture. I told her I didn't know what she could do or if there was anything we could do, and that I might never get past this. She mentioned wanting to help because she didn't want to see me suffer. She hopes that over time I can see her for who she is now. She was willing to do whatever it took to resolve this. She made it clear that she has been completely faithful since we got married and would never break her vows. I thanked her sarcastically, and I know that wasn't very mature of me. I requested a pause on discussions until at least Wednesday. I have 2 projects to finish, and I'm really tired. I have no idea what I want to do. I go from feeling really angry and wanting to kick her out to feeling upset and wishing I could just move on with her. I understand this isn't what anyone wanted to hear, and I'm not proud to say it, but it's the reality right now. Update 2. I'm 25, married to my wife, who's 23. At my sister's wedding, she told me she slept with the best man. I have been really surprised by the responses I have gotten about this. I've received over 400 private messages, and I can't respond to all of them anymore. It would take me a week to get through them. I appreciate everyone who reached out to me. For those who relate to this, I'm truly sorry you had to experience it too. I wouldn't want this to happen to anyone, not even my worst enemy. One thing I want to mention is that most of the people reaching out to me are doing so through PM. Many of us hesitate to share our opinions openly because we're worried about being targeted. I have considered both sides, and while some advice has been helpful, other parts haven't been as good. Still, I believe everyone means well. I wish people could disagree without feeling the need to attack someone for their opinion. Here's the update that many of you have been asking for. I asked to let it go until last night so I could concentrate on a work task I needed to finish. She followed through, but I could see she was really emotional and honestly nervous. She is on strong benzodiazepines for her anxiety, but even with that, I can still see how anxious she has been. I didn't mean to punish her on purpose. I was actually trying to give her some space, but she said last night that not holding her or showing affection felt like torture to her. Last night was the night we had what my dad referred to as a come-to-Jesus meeting. I got home from work and brought dinner to avoid any distractions from cleaning up or anything else. We began our conversation at 6 and wrapped it up around 2. During that time, we discussed many issues that have been around and what we are both ready to do to move ahead. Starting today, I'm living with my brother for the next few days, but I'm not sure how long it will be. She is understandably upset about everything, and I am trying to communicate openly with her so she doesn't feel abandoned or neglected. Here's a quick summary of how I ended up living with my brother. I understand this might not please some of you, but here's my perspective on the matter. I want to save my marriage, but I can't do it while feeling like I've been living a lie. I understand she didn't mean to deceive me after we got married, but when I reflected on this one question, I wondered if I would have stayed with her if I had known about this back then. I always said no. She took away my choice about whether to continue, and we spent the next few years on a foundation that wasn't entirely real. But the reality is, we created something. Sometimes you can fix foundations, and other times you need to tear them down and start fresh. This is what I plan to do. I want to make some changes for both of us so we can begin anew. As I mentioned in my first post, our marriage up to now has been what I would call perfect, or as close to perfect as anything can be. Some troubling things happened because of this, so here's a brief summary of our conversation. I made it clear that I was really upset about the cheating, and I still see it as cheating. She now understands that this is how I feel. I was also really hurt by her not considering my feelings in this situation. I expressed my frustration about being called immature and a child for something that I had every right to be upset about. She apologized and acknowledged that she was wrong. She admitted her fault and understood the situation. At that time, she believed that since we were married, I shouldn't be upset about something that happened before. Now she realizes that was wrong. I told her I felt disrespected by her being with this guy in front of me and that it was humiliating to shake his hand. She apologized again and explained that at that moment, she thought she was trying to show me that there was nothing going on. She mentioned that if she stayed away from him or seemed suspicious, I would end up more upset. She mentioned that this was the thing that affected her the most. Even her sister pointed out how wrong it was to treat me this way. She felt deeply hurt because it hurt me, which was never her intention. I mentioned her indifference about being with someone else while we were still together. All she said was that she was really sorry. She made a mistake and wishes she could change what happened. Then there was the conversation that sparked the most debate. I sensed that she wasn't truly sorry for her actions. She was only regretful that I didn't just accept it and move on as if everything was fine. I knew there would be consequences for what I saw as betrayal and a lack of concern for me. I'll give her all the credit. She was straightforward about this, so we didn't waste time trying to figure it out. She acknowledged that once we returned home from the event, she began to understand that I wasn't going to drop this. As time passed, she recognized that it was a problem. She immediately got upset with me for being upset with her. But then she saw how foolish that was, even from her own perspective. She was constantly reminded that she was my wife and that I should just forgive and forget things that happened long before our marriage. She admitted that when it became real, she panicked about the possibility of losing her marriage. No one in her family has gone through a divorce, so she might be the first. She acknowledged that this was a major reason for her panic attack. As the week went on and she talked more with her family, she started to realize that her views on marriage aren't as absolute as she once believed. She felt bad about introducing the guy to me. You'll notice, as I did, that she never mentioned feeling guilty about being with him. I want to share this with everyone. Here's a quick summary of what happened. In this version, she comes off as robotic, but trust me, she wasn't like that at all. Many tears were shed. Genuine tears. I've seen her tears before, so I can tell the difference. There were some curse words, and there were moments of pleading and begging. This lasted about 8 hours, so by the end, she was really worn out. I have outlined some steps for us to reconcile. It's entirely her choice if she wants to stay together. She is really determined to stay together, by the way. I don't care how unreasonable it may seem, she should never have contact with him again. This is a must for me and a deal breaker. I was very clear about it. We need to go to couples therapy. Even though I live with my brother, we are still legally married, and this doesn't give either of us a reason to date anyone else. It would be a deal breaker in an instant if either of us uses this as an excuse. I don't think she will either, and I definitely won't. We begin again, up to a certain extent. I need to see her in a new light. I can't ignore the fact that she decided to cheat, even if I wanted to. That's the current situation. I understand that this may not be what some of you were hoping for, but in the end, I need to choose what I think will bring me the most happiness over time. My mind tells me to be cautious, and I plan to protect my heart for a while, but my heart still loves her. We're going on a date this Friday night. She is really looking forward to it. I don't know how much longer I'll have my brother around. I might not get through Friday. Now, I feel like I have some control, which I didn't feel I had before the conversation. I held her for a long time, and we slept together. I don't want someone who's been hurt too much. At the moment, that's pretty much what she is. I want her to be my lifelong partner, but it's important that she understands she needs to care about my feelings just as much as I care about hers. P.S. I had to think a lot about my new brother-in-law. I've met him a few times, and he seems like a decent guy, but he definitely knew about the problem in the end. To keep the peace in the family, I won't say anything about him. It would just make every holiday difficult from now on. If he keeps the incident and that guy out of our conversations, I can deal with it. Extra details. I apologize for not addressing this earlier. This might not please anyone, but here it is. She was fully aware that her actions were cheating. She has always acknowledged that. She thought that getting married was like reaching the finish line, and that she had just made it through. She kept it a secret because she understood that if I found out, it would be the end. Her shock was that I still considered it a big deal after being married, and it could ultimately end the marriage. I'm not certain I was clear, so let me say it again. She knew it was wrong and that it would have ended us if I ever found out. She believed that the consequences stopped once we got married. She was really surprised that I still was, considering it cheating since it didn't occur within the bounds of marriage. It's true, whether you want to believe it or not. She has some issues that might make you question things, but she is very committed to her Christian faith. I am not. While I find it hard to believe, there is definitely a specific religious perspective that shapes her view of marriage. Update 3. Thanks to everyone sending messages of support and asking about what happened. Here's an update for those who have been asking. This is a short story. I've been living with my brother for just over a month. He is truly amazing. He has gone out of his way to help me, and I've started to see him in a different light. We were close growing up, but not really close, if that makes sense. This has made me realize that our connection is stronger than I thought. I have given her the divorce papers. Before anyone gets too excited about me breaking up with her, let me clarify a few things. I visited a divorce lawyer and shared my situation, including that I didn't want to proceed with the divorce, but wanted to have everything ready just in case. He created a divorce decree and made 3 copies. He saved one for later, one for her, one for me. I chose to deliver the paperwork to her personally since I knew she would be upset, and I wanted to clarify what was going on. I handed her the paperwork in a manila envelope and explained what it was before she opened it. I made it clear to her that I wouldn't take any action unless we both failed to meet the conditions we agreed on. I told her I was dedicated to our relationship, but I needed to know we were moving in the right direction. I mentioned that this was just a backup in case she doubted my seriousness. This didn't turn out as I expected, and looking back, I realize it was a mistake. She had been doing everything inside. She had the ability to fulfill the agreement before that. We had gone on a few dates before this, and they were enjoyable for both of us. Basically, I messed up the timing. I meant well, but it seemed like I wasn't recognizing the efforts she was putting in to make this happen. This resulted in a severe anxiety attack that her medication couldn't manage, so we went to the ER. We went back. They gave her a shot and sent her home. We decided to keep her family out of it this time. I stayed with her for 2 days to ensure she was all right. This came up in our counseling session, and I ended up looking like a manipulative jerk, which looking back, I was. I took my copy and her copy and ripped them up right in front of her. She has no idea there's a 3rd copy, but I intend to have him get rid of that one too. I feel terrible after seeing her reaction when she received the divorce papers. It's a look I never want to witness again. She was really happy to see me that day. Then I gave her that, and suddenly, she looked both sad and scared. Aside from that bump in the road, everything has been going smoothly. I'm moving back home this weekend. My brother has been awesome, but I feel like I'm getting in his way, even if he insists otherwise. I've enjoyed playing Xbox every night, that's for sure. I'm going home because she has done everything I've asked, and I know I've put her through a lot. She has faced significant consequences, and I'm sure she understands the gravity of the situation. I love her. She made a foolish, selfish mistake long ago, but she had been nearly the perfect wife until that revelation. I'm sorry to let some of you down. I know I'll probably get a lot of messages calling me names and saying I'm an embarrassment, but I don't live your lives, and you don't live mine. This is it. I hope there won't be any updates from here on out. We aren't fully healed yet, but we're making progress. It will take time, patience, and understanding.